I'm not gonna lie, I'm Team Roy. Celeste kind of threw me off a little bit in this book. I'm a borderline misandrist. I support women's rights and wrongs, but Celeste, girl, you was doing a lot of weird stuff. Like I said, if I was Roy, I would have asked, like, girl, did I do something to you? Like, for real, did I do something to you? Okay, so I wanted to do a book review of American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This is one of the 2 books that I read from her. The first one that I've read, I think, was this one. And I think I read it when it first came out. I read it around, like, the vid times during 2020. Reread it recently, and it's still kind of shocking to this day. My favorite book by Tayari Jones is actually called Silver Sparrow, but I'm going to get to that another day. Okay, so first reviewing this book, I think when we were all reading it in the beginning chapters, it just talked about Roy and Celeste's relationship. This is going to be a spoiler about the actual book itself, but I think just like the myriad of warning signs in the very beginning of the book, kind of like leading up to when Roy was wrongfully convicted, right? I think even Celeste having a little bit of apprehension about even going to where he's from, and even going to like the hotel or motel where Roy was like conceived or birthed. Just her apprehension, I feel like Roy took it as a she's looking down at me because of my background, rather than Celeste just being actually uncomfortable around his family because she felt that his family didn't really like her, which they kind of didn't, but they didn't hate her. But I can totally see how her apprehension to just going, and then like we're in like a rundown country of the middle town. Like she's a city girl. She was in like Atlanta. She kind of got everything that she needed when she grew up. Like she grew up in a well-rounded way. I can see like how she was afraid. Also, I think I'll talk about the fear of letting go. I think when Celeste and Roy were at his trial, kind of her not wanting to show emotions, but her being afraid of showing emotions. When I first read it, I was kind of judging Celeste for not being more emotional and not wanting to share what they talked about prior to him being convicted of that crime. I don't want to spoil it too much, but they were talking about their family dynamics and how they never shared those things before the tragic event happened. And I kind of feel like we'll talk about this later in the video about how I don't know what they were talking about prior to being married. I feel like a lot of the information that they shared isn't that conversations that you have with your partner prior to being married. Like I feel like there's a line between oversharing and then like sharing just enough. What's the middle ground? Because I feel like her like bombarding him with these events, and he's like, oh, that's why you're scared of this and that, and then him bombarding her with like hers, I guess like his lineage. Those are things you need to tell me prior to us being married. I feel like the marriage would have kind of crashed and crumbled anyway. It was just too much not out in the open. And like what's preventing them from like sharing those moments? That was kind of throwing me. And then even like when he was arrested, kind of to when he's in prison. Yeah, because they're sharing their marriage while he's in prison for a long time. It kind of just made me think about what their real emotional vulnerability was. Like, was there real emotional vulnerability? I feel like those are things that you have to share. Like, you don't share those things when something tragic, such as your husband's wrongfully convicted of a crime. Like, what are you guys talking about prior to that? And maybe that's why they were so apprehensive about sharing things with each other, because what their marriage was built on was not really vulnerability. Kind of like with Celeste and Andre. It's more vulnerable. But I will get back to Andre later. And one thing that I mentioned that I feel like I watched other reviews for this book was that Celeste had real resentment towards Roy. If I was Roy, I would have asked her, like, girl, did I do something to you? Prior to this, did I do something to you? You could just hear it in like the way that the author writes the character Celeste, how Celeste feels about Roy. It's like she was pressured to like be married, or pressured to like behave or like act a certain way with Roy's family. Like she had a real resentment. I don't think it was like anything bad, but it was definitely under the surface. And I feel like him kind of going away was kind of like the woosah that they needed, or she needed to like kind of get away. Like I feel like she's always been like an independent woman, which Roy and Celeste say that a lot in this book, as well as her family, as well as Andre, that Celeste is not really like a marriage woman. She's more independent. But like don't get married then. You know what I mean? I feel like Roy, because of his background, coming from like a lower class background from Louisiana, I don't want to say country bumpkin, but just a town that's nothing like where they went to school or nothing like Atlanta. I feel like in his mind, he was like, we're going to do things by the book. We're going to do things by the rule. Like, I have this planned out, this planned out, this planned out. And like in his mind, it was going well. When he met Celeste, like he has a beautiful wife. Things are going well. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like Roy was kind of controlling, but not in a way where it's problematic. I think it's just that Roy is, because he had so many things played out by the book, it gave Celeste a lot of anxiety and felt like she was being controlled, which is also kind of why I feel like she had a lot of resentment towards him. Like, it's like, okay, marriage, kids, like he had things like ducks in a row. And obviously during this time, I'm gonna say this book was written during like the late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, because it's a societal pressure to do so. I don't think that Celeste really wanted to do those things. And I feel like Roy is proving himself to himself, like, oh, I can actually do this, even though I came from a really, I don't know, like fucked up town, I can still do better. But I also just feel like he's proving to his family, proving to his community, proving to his, like, where he grew up, that yes, he's a capable black man and can you know, go through society and elevate himself and move up social class, which he did. He was doing fairly well until the event happened, right? Yeah, like I feel like he's trying to like recreate and like relive something by him playing like, not God, but just trying to control things to go a certain way, which is admirable, right? Like he's to the point, he helped Celeste like, I don't want to say like be a stay-at-home mom, but you know, help Celeste, not even stay-at-home mom, like a stay-at-home wife. Like she was doing art, he funded her art, trying to get her like art business off the ground. Like later in the book, it talked about how he had like a lot of business endeavors that he wanted to try. So Roy like loved Celeste and he wanted her to do well. I just feel like that was not a good mix. Like he's trying to get a feisty woman to kind of like tone it down, and it's clear that she didn't want to. I'm not gonna lie, I'm Team Reread. Celeste kind of threw me off a little bit in this book. I'm a borderline misandrist. I support women's rights and wrongs, but Celeste, girl, you was doing a lot of weird stuff. Like I said, if I was Roy, I would have asked, like, girl, did I do something to you? Like, for real, did I do something to you? Also, Roy is a very determined man. I don't know why Celeste and Andre thought that like he was just gonna wait at home for them to come pick him up. It never gave that. Roy always gave, I'm coming.
I know I'm coming. They know I'm coming. I know they gonna be there.
They were way too lax for me. So when Roy showed up at the house, when he was like in the house, I was just like, girl, you better than me. I would have passed out, because I don't even know. Also, I do not like the character Andre. He's a typical side guy. I was gonna say he's a party next door ass nigga, but like we have to say that for another day, because I don't know. Also, at the end of the book that I got online, there was some questions for discussions that she had in her book, and one of the interesting ones that I want to talk about, don't want to spoil it, they had mentioned that in the book that they did not recognize or identify the race of the woman that accused Roy of the crime in the book. I'm gonna say I think she's a black woman. I just feel like the way Roy and Celeste talked about her, which also I really liked how Tayari wrote this in the book. Even though Roy was wrongfully convicted, they never second guessed the lady that she was actually attacked. Like they never second guessed that, and I really appreciated that. She just seemed like they could, like in the book they talked about her being like a little afraid, a little scared. She was headstrong on that someone did attack her, and someone did attack her. And Celeste talking about how she felt so bad for her, and you know, she wanted to find her and ask her if she's okay, but she left it alone because the lady is obviously traumatized. Roy was talking about how like he felt bad for her because she really did get attacked, and that it felt more communal and more like familial. And I appreciate that. I think the woman that accused Roy was a black woman, but that's just my opinion. But yeah, I just loved the book. It was such an easy read. It's an amazing read. There were parts of it where I had to close the book, well, close the laptop, well, close the iPad and be like, I need to like take a break. It was so much at once, but she did like so well. There were parts where I was just like, I don't know, like it was so heart-wrenching. The intensity of the emotions, it felt like it was such an easy read. The letters, I love that. I love how they were communicating through letters. I love how we explore the characters through the letters. And I love how like the chapters were broken down by each person and their point of view. I love that. Yeah, and honestly, that book was amazing. Like, I think that's my review for this whole entire book, but it's like an amazing book. I don't know where I would rate the book. I don't really think I would rate the book. I just feel like it's an amazing book that everyone should read. So yeah, that's it.